Hey everybody, Matt Avery here today for another RaceDay scoring certification class. So today we will be going through just the RaceDay scoring portion of this process, and we're going to be getting certified. So actually, Chris, I think I need to get presenter. There we go. All right. So for today, there's going to be two main portions of the class. We're going to have an introduction slide deck, and then we're going to have the actual certification class portion. So the first part is going to be just a general overview of the software and the terminology we're going to use during the class later. The first portion is not going to be interactive. You're not going to be using RaceDay scoring. It'll just be telling you about the different features that it has and the different lingo that we use when we talk about scoring. So for this first portion, it's more of a listen. It'll be maybe about an hour, 45 minutes, and then we'll go into the class portion. You will see that we do have in GoToWebinar a handout on the right-hand side where you can download a document called RaceDay Certification Information. In that document, there'll be links to the different presentations that we're doing today, along with a bunch of information that you'll use for the actual certification portion of the class. So you should download this ahead of time. In addition, if you are using RaceDay scoring for the very first time, we do recommend that you go ahead and start, if you haven't already created a timer account on RunSignup, download RaceDay scoring, and go ahead and get that going. While you're listening to this first portion is a great time to start on that. You will need those to get through the certification class later today. So if you have any questions as we're going through, feel free to drop them in the chat on the right. I have Chris McDonald and Roger Bradshaw on the back end here who are ready and willing to answer any questions that you may have. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Again, we'll be doing just a presentation to start with, and then we'll be going into the class later, and we'll have a break, and we'll have a break during the certification class itself. It'll be a little bit of a long haul today, but I'm hoping to get everything wrapped up within 3 hours. We have blocked out 4 hours, and I'm hoping to get you back that extra hour at the end. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So these are the different things that we're going to be going through today. Basically, how to manage races, what are races, what are events, how to manage participants, streams and locations, what are they, scored events and segments, age groups and top finishers, and reports. So if you did download this slide deck, you will be able to access the links that are shown here. And these are just going over to our help page where we have a whole lot of information about each and every one of these points. So if you wanted to do some more research on them or you wanted some further information on them, you can go ahead and do that on your own time. So let's start off with managing races with RaceDay scoring. So what is a race? First off, a race in RaceDay scoring terms is a collection of related competitions in the same year that we call events. They may or may not take place on the same day, but are usually on the same day or weekend. So on the right, the example we have here is we have the 2021 Run for Hope. That's a race. And then within that race, you've got an event called the 10K Run and another event called 5K Run. So that's the terminology that we use here at RunSignup, and it's the same thing in RaceDay scoring. You've got your race and you got a bunch of events within that race. So they're exactly the same as they are in RunSignup. And you can have one or more events that are generally different race distances, but do not have to be. Sometimes registrations will set up things that have like a 5K run and a 5K run club pricing and a 5K run age pricing and things like this. That's all supported in RaceDay scoring. So let's talk about creating races in RaceDay scoring. There are two main options for creating races in RaceDay scoring. You can either import the race from RunSignup, or you can create them manually. So why would you want to import a race from RunSignup? You'd want to do this if the race already has RunSignup registration set up, because that means you don't have to download the participant list and import it into RaceDay scoring manually. The participant data will magically appear when the race is connected. Future changes made on RunSignup will show up in RaceDay scoring and vice versa. So this is really nice. It enables that full syncing capability that all of our timers love with RaceDay scoring and RunSignup. So if the race already exists in RunSignup, we recommend importing from RunSignup directly. Now you can also create races manually. This is obviously useful if the race doesn't use RunSignup. You have the ability when you're uploading a race or creating it manually to publish it to RunSignup. So this is something that we make available to you when you're creating your race. You can choose to upload it to RunSignup. This is really nice because you can use RunSignup's free online results platform for races that don't use RunSignup for registration. Now, it's not recommended for races that already exist on RunSignup, because then you end up with like a copy of or a duplicate of the same race you're already scoring, and you don't want that. So those are the two main ways to create races. And in RaceDay scoring, if you load it up and you look, you can check it out here. On the left is how to import a race from RunSignup, and on the right is how to create it manually. We'll be going through this process later on in the class today, but that's just the general idea. Participants, how do we import them, add them one by one, and how do we view/manage participants? So in RaceDay scoring, what you'll find is that there's this menu bar on the left, and you kind of walk down it generally to proceed with setting up a race. And you see the little people icons here, and that's the participants and teams report. That'll show you all the participants in RaceDay scoring. Now, the way it works if you're integrated with RunSignup is that all the participants there are going to show up in RaceDay scoring. So even if you had like a virtual run, the participants are going to show up there, and that's totally normal and expected. You don't only see participants that are being scored. You also see all the participants that are out there on RunSignup. Now, if you do need to import participants, you can do that for RunSignup races and local races, races that are not connected to RunSignup, or races that you created and then uploaded to RunSignup. You can import a spreadsheet, like a standard CSV spreadsheet. We do not support Excel spreadsheets, it has to be in a CSV format, but that is all supported. Or you can import it from RunSignup. So if you were working on a race that was using RunSignup, you have the option. You could either use RunSignup's importer on their website, or you can use RaceDay scoring and import the participants that way. If you've imported the race from RunSignup or published your manually created race to RunSignup, any adds or updates made to participants there will automatically be shown in RaceDay scoring. If you have connected your race to RunSignup, you still can import a CSV of ads into RaceDay scoring. So that's one common misconception, is that people think that if you're using RunSignup, you have to import participants into RunSignup. That's not the case. You can always add more participants into RaceDay scoring, and they'll get pushed up to RunSignup. So participants can be added in RaceDay scoring under the participant menu by using the add button. You can use quick mode to limit the fields on the screen to only display those you really need. You can use settings to configure what fields show in quick mode, and more features like defaulting the city or event. You can use keyboard shortcuts to make typing and entries faster, and a whole bunch of other stuff. We try to make it fairly straightforward and easier for you if you are manually entering in data into RaceDay scoring. So we're not going to go into depth on all of this. If you do want to learn more about adding participants, again, just click the links in the slide deck if you have it. And we'll be doing a little bit of this in the certification class later. So the next thing we're going to talk about is bib chip files and chip assignments. So some chip systems, it depends on which ones you're using, have the idea of a bib chip file because all of their chips are encoded with an alphanumeric code. Like down here you see ADS 3241. So some systems have this, and some systems are just a bib code. So they'll be bib1 equals bib1. Some are like chip ADS 3241 equals bib1. So when you have a system like that, an example would be Trident or iPico. You would have to make sure that you upload a bib chip file to your RaceDay scoring setup. And that will basically tell the system, I know that chip ADS3241 is bib 123. What that allows the system to do is say, okay, I got a raw read at 11:23:45:22 a.m. for chip ADS3241. And because I have this bib chip uploaded, now I know that that raw read time of day, 11:23:45, should be associated with bib number 123. And I know that bib number 123 is associated with John Smith because in the RunSignup registration, that association was made. And that what that means at the end of that string of data is that we have a result. We know that John Smith finished at 11:23:45. And so we have to walk that chain to figure out how to map the results to the right people. So it's critical that you have a bib chip file if you need it. If you don't need it, you don't have to use it. So you can do this on the participant screen under Action Setup Chip Auto Assignment. And basically what it does is it will apply the chip cross reference to any participants that exist in the race. And if any new participants come down from RunSignup, they'll automatically get their chip code applied to them. So usually what timers who use a system that does have chips, they will upkeep a bib to chip cross-reference file elsewhere and just import it into the race. And it will cover all of the expected registrations. So let's say you have 2,000 chips on racks or in trays. You already know those chip codes are the correct bib numbers, and you just import that spreadsheet. And if you lose a chip, you substitute it and you adjust it for the next race. And you just upload it right here. It's pretty straightforward. Again, if you want to learn more about this stuff, we're not going to dive deep into it. Click the link and you can see more info on it. So next, we're going to talk about what streams and timing locations are. These are all about making sure that the right read is selected for each participant. So we have integration with multiple chip systems, and so we have to handle things a little bit differently for each and every single chip system out there. That's why we have this relationship of streams to locations, and I'll tell you a little bit about that now. So what are streams? They are basically our way to connect to timing hardware, middleware, or a collection of files in a folder. So most chip systems have some sort of middleware product, ChronoTrack Fusion, ChronoTrack Simple Client, Race Results, MyLapse Timing and Scoring. Those all interface with the readers themselves, and they get all the data from it and dump it into either a TCP/IP exporter, or they have a way to save the data from those readers out to files. So this is how we get our data from the actual chip systems. For the most part, we don't integrate directly with the readers, except for iPico and Trident. We really work through the middleware to get the reads from the hardware themselves. So streams gather all of the chip read data from these sources and send it to RaceDay scoring to process into what we call scored reads based on a bunch of different configuration that you can do. So we have a whole slew of guides on how to configure streams for each of these different systems because they're all different and unique at this link here. And if you have any questions on how to work with your particular system, our support team is ready to help you out with that. But basically the concept is streams are just getting the data from your middleware, and then timing locations, which we'll talk about next, are deciding how we actually process the data from the streams. And you can see streams in RaceDay scoring on the left. Just go onto the Streams tab. And streams are something that you can use over and over again. So depending on your chip system type and the way that it works, they're all a bit different. You could have one that's just called finish, and in your middleware, your location is called finish, and all of your race setups in like timing and scoring. So you get to reuse that same stream over and over again, but it totally depends on your system. Each and every single one is totally different. So best practices are really a recommendation to be made like in a one-on-one session with a support person so that we can give you our best recommendations for your chip system type, as well as how you do your races, because even within chip systems, people do things differently. So what are timing locations? Timing locations are collections of one or many streams of read data. So in the previous one, we were saying how you could have multiple streams. Specifically, you may have, for different systems, you may have to have a stream for each and every single reader you have. Some systems don't require that. You could have a single stream for all of the readers at your finish location, totally dependent on the type of system you're using. What RaceDay scoring does is that it allows the user to be flexible and assign multiple streams to a single location if needed, or you can assign a single stream to multiple locations if needed. And there's a whole lot of reasons why you may want to do that. But basically, timing locations are filtered. They filter the stream data. So basically, you can mark timing locations as different types. They could be a start type, they could be a start or a finish/split type, or they could be a common start finish type. And that is important because what we do is when a location is marked as a finish location, we always pick the very first time seen for each and every single bib number within the parameters you set up. So what you'll see when we walk through this later on is that we say everything after 8:01 p.m. is going to be considered to be a finish time. And then, I might get a finish read at 8:05 and walk around after the race is done, getting some water and cheering on friends. All the reads that happen for me after that point are ignored because in RaceDay scoring, if it's a finish, we always pick the first one seen within the time frame that you have set up. If it's a start, it's the opposite. We pick the last time seen. So what you'll commonly see if you are collecting start reads in RaceDay scoring is you got your start time at, let's say, 7 a.m. And if you're using a start line, what you could do is you would set up the timing location for that area to cut off at, let's say, 7:05 a.m. so that we are only going to consider start reads until 5 minutes after the start of that race. And that will mean that you don't have to worry about people getting picked up at the start location after they've already finished or something like that. So yeah, more importantly, timing locations are where you set up your time filters. These time filters allow you to control what ranges of time should be considered valid for this location. And you can learn more, again, about setting all this stuff up right here. And right, just basically the idea here is that we're getting all the stream data and we're dumping it into our timing locations to be filtered. So timing locations give you the ability to filter out the raw reads coming from the streams connected to a location by the time of day. Start reads can be considered until a set time, again, usually a couple of minutes after the gunshot. Finish and split reads can be considered starting at a set time, usually a couple of minutes prior to your first expected participant. So again, if you have a 5K that starts at 7 a.m., you may say that I expect my first finisher sometime after 7:14 a.m., unless you're doing a really, really, really fast race. It's possible to connect a single stream to multiple locations if needed. This is really useful if situations where there is a single finish area for more than one scored event, but you want to have time filters that are specific to each event using that location. So what that means is that, let's say you're doing a 5K, 10K that finish in the same area. You don't want to have a single cutoff for your first expected finish time, because that's going to be totally different if it's a 5K versus a 10K. So if you have that kind of setup and you're concerned about the time filters not being able to be applied specifically enough, meaning like I have a 5K and a 10K and I want to say earliest 10K is going to be 31 minutes, earliest 5K is going to be 14 minutes. what you can do is create two different locations, one called 5K finish and one called 10K finish, and you can have your single stream called finish, let's say, connected to both of those. And then the system will know, oh, okay, the 5K finish is only going to be referencing 5K runners, and it'll only accept times for 5K runners that are after 7:14 a.m. And for the 10K, only 10K runners who have reads after 10:30 or 7:31 a.m., so on and so forth. So these filtering rules, combined with how timing locations select reads, that is the last scene read for starts and the first scene read for finish and split locations, make it easy to ensure that you get the best read selected for all participants without having to worry about participants walking around finish mats with chips on after they've already finished, and participants wandering over start mats before the gunshot goes off. So that's kind of how we manage the read selection with streams and timing locations. It's really all based on the timing locations. And on the right here, you can see, we'll go into this a little bit further later, but the basic idea of how you would set the last times or the consider start times until and the consider finish split times after settings area when you are, this is actually a common start finish setup, but it's a similar kind of thing if you're doing separate start finish as well. So you can get to timing locations on the left here, the next item in the list. And then you can click settings on any of those locations that you have to adjust any of those location filters. And we'll be doing, again, a little more of a deep dive into that later. So next, we're going to talk about the different kinds of reads in RaceDay scoring. Two main kinds of reads, raw reads and scored reads. And it's important to understand the difference because they're referenced throughout the application, and it's a good idea just to have a good grip of understanding these before we dive into the certification. So raw reads are the unfiltered data from your devices, middleware, or files that are within folders that your streams are connected to. Raw reads can be selected to be used as a scored read depending on multiple factors, or they can be ignored for a number of reasons. So raw reads are always in RaceDay scoring. Some of them may be used as scored reads, and a lot of them are probably going to be ignored because a lot of times you don't want to select every single read for every single participant. If I'm walking around after the race is completed at the finish line, I'm going to have a whole bunch of ignored raw reads because the system isn't going to use those reads for scoring. But we keep them around so that you as the timer will have the ability to look back at the data and see all of the reads that we got for a specific person, let's say, to give you that context of what was going on with them and maybe allow you to adjust things as needed. So there's a whole bunch of different reasons why things can be ignored, and you'll encounter those as you do scoring with RaceDay scoring periodically. Most common one is the filtered by bib or time, and that is mostly an issue with setting up time filters on your timing location if it's improperly working. So a lot of times it'll say like, this has been filtered by time, and the reason is that the read was before your time filter was set up. So basically, you got to finish before you said you wanted to allow finishes to happen, and a whole bunch of other ones that I won't go into detail today on. So scored reads are essentially raw reads that were selected. They were the ones that were used. Let's say you got 20 reads for someone, one was used as the start and another was used as the finish. You know, I have 2 scored reads from 20 raw reads. For each bib, the best read is selected from the raw read data collected from all streams connected to that timing location. If that timing location was a start, we select that last scene read within the time filter. So until 7:03, give me the very last time scene for every single bib. If it's a finish or a split type, we select the very first scene read starting at that time filter. So at 7:14, the first time I see bib 1, select that. That's going to be their scored read to be used for their finish. These reads are used to calculate segment times based on your scored event and segment setup. So segment times are what you would see in the results. They are your net times they're your 5K, your 20 minutes that you did for a 5K, or your split time that you had. All of the raw reads and scored reads are in time of day. So you'll see the actual time of day that the read occurred. All of the segment times are in like net time. So when you're looking at race day scoring on the dashboard, you'll see the raw data in the right corner, top right corner, and you'll see the scored read data in the bottom left corner. It'll be broken out by individual locations. So if you had a 5K, 10K, and you decided to create separate timing locations for the finish for each event, you would see those as individual blocks. You can click those and you'll be able to view the data that you're looking at. So I could click 4008 here, and it'll show me all of the raw reads, and I could scroll through it, I could search through it, I could dig into it further if I ever needed to investigate why a read was selected or not selected. It's very typical to do that. So here is how you would see raw data. You can search through it. You can, one really thing that I find is really helpful is you can click a bib number in this list and it'll automatically apply the search. So if I clicked 369, it will plug that into the search and it'll show me all the reads just for bib 369. If you scored reads, it's a similar kind of thing, but a little bit different. Basically, again, it's just showing you the reads that were used for this participant. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about scored events and segments. These areas are telling the system how to use the reads that have been selected to produce times. So remember, raw reads, scored reads, they're all in time of day. They are all saying, okay, Matt Avery got a read at 7:02 and a read at 7:18. And those are his start and finish times. But I know nothing about the difference between those two. I don't know what his 5K time is yet. I just know what time of day he started and what time of day he finished. Scored events and segments tell the system how to do the calculation between those two. Before we get to that part, let's talk about what are scored events. They are basically selecting which registration events should be scored together or included. Scored events are collections of participants from one or many registration events of the same distance. So on the right, I have 3 registration events, let's say, and 1 scored event. So this race, let's say it's an example, they had a 5K run, a 5K walk, and a 5K club pricing. But at the end of the day, they wanted one report that lists all those people ranked together. I don't care if they said they were going to walk, run, or if they're in the club, let's say. Now, there may be cases where they don't want that, but let's say they wanted all of them combined together. If that's the case, you can go ahead and select those 3 registration events and put them into a single scored event that we have that will basically allow you to create reports just for that 5K run. So it makes it easier when you have these multiple registration categories. And so that's why we have this concept of registration events and scored events. So you have the flexibility to combine registration events if needed. So in our case, because later on today, we're going to be building an event and actually showing it off to you. If you're creating races, you're probably going to have just 5K run equals 5K run. You're going to do the parsing of the data yourself, and you're going to probably put everyone into the correct category. Where this becomes handy is registrations where they have multiple categories like this one that you need to combine. So today we'll talk about it a little bit later, but it's going to be more of a one-to-one relationship. But it's just good to know that you have this flexibility in race day scoring. So if you go into scored events on the left here, you can see that there are a few different registration events. And it'll say that if you select 5K, it'll say that it's 3.1 miles. And some of these checkboxes are grayed out. And the reason they're grayed out is because they are not 3.1 miles. You are required to have the same distance for the events you are combining together. So if you need to fix something, you can change that on RunSignup if this is a RunSignup race, or if it's a local race, you can edit the race and fix it there. But you're only able to combine registration events if they have the same distance. which makes sense. Wouldn't really make sense to combine the 5K and 10K results into one sheet. Doesn't really, wouldn't really make sense at all to do that. So as you're walking through RaceDay scoring, if you hit this the first time when you get to scored events, you'll see that it'll have this note here saying that some registration events are not mapped to scored events. You can use this quick setup button to get you started, and it'll automatically create a single scored event for each registration event you have. So in this case, I have a single registration event called 5K. If I click this button, it'll just drop in one scored event that is already mapped to the 5K. If it was 5K, 10K, we create two scored events, one for the 5K, one for the 10K. This is really handy if you're just doing a basic build and are setting up, you've already set up all of the registration events and you just need to quickly add them. So next, we're going to talk about selecting scored event start and finish locations. Each scored event has an area to select the start and finish locations to be used. This is going to tell the system which timing location to use to set up the entire race segment for this scored event, which is what is used to show finish times for participants and reports. So segments, we'll talk about actually in a minute here, but on the right in scored events, you'll see this timing locations area. This is where you can say, if you're doing a timed start, what location you're going to use. You can also just say, not a timed start, it's in the drop down there, and the finish timing location to use. And setting the actual start time. So this is the last really important part. When you are setting up scored events, you'll see back here that there's an approximate start time and an actual start time. The approximate start time is what the registration coordinator had said they expect the start time to be on the registration page. The actual start time is when you actually go and start the race. You can do it right from here. You can click set to current time if you're actually on site ready to score the race, or if you get it from your reader and you plug it in, you just have to make sure that you actually set it in here. This is what we use to calculate all of the net times for your race. So you got to make sure that when you're actually timing on race day that you set this here. We'll talk about this a little bit more later, different methods for setting this, but for now, you just want to make sure that you have an actual start time set because that's your main start time for the whole application. And it can get set from multiple different places. We'll talk about that later. So yeah, if you want to learn more about these different options for setting up starts, you can. Basically, there's a way to start the race from the race dashboard. There's ways to import marker reads from readers. Some systems have a way to actually set up a marker, like a gunshot read, and we can pull that in automatically and associate it with a start time. You can learn more about that at this link here. And we also have corral starts. You can do chip starts, like I had mentioned. There's a whole bunch of different information on that here. So let's talk a little bit about scoring by chip versus clock. Each scored event can be scored by chip or clock time. So chip time uses any read seen after the start time. If there are no reads after the start time, then the actual start time is used instead. Or if they have a corral they're assigned to, they would get that start time. Pre-gun start times are ignored by default, but they can be used if desired to calculate chip times. So this is pretty important to understand. If you are collecting chip start times, we ignore everything that occurs prior to the assigned start time. And then we say, once the start goes off, we pick up and say, so remember we're talking about, let's say we have a 7 a.m. start, and we're going to consider start times until 7:05 a.m. You have a window between 7 a.m. and 7:05 that are valid start times. And that will allow you to pick those up and use those times. If there were times that occurred prior to the gun that you wanted to use, there is a way to tell the system to use them, but by default, they will be ignored. And you'll see that right here in your scored event setup, what time should be used for scoring results, clock time or chip time. And this is the main sort for all of the reports that will get made for this scored event. So you can override this, you can do all sorts of fun stuff, but this is just the default. It's just setting up your defaults. So if you want your main reports to be sorted by clock time, select clock time. If you want your main reports to be sorted by chip time, select chip time. And later on, you can learn how to do custom reports and different types of sorts and things if you need to. This is where you're setting all of your defaults. So let's talk about segments. So when we were talking before about the timing locations, and I showed you how to set up your main finish location for your different scored events, we basically were talking about segments. Segments are essentially what we use to calculate times and paces for participants. They use timing locations as start and end points and calculate the time it takes to get between them. So I have a timing location called start, a timing location called finish, and there's a segment that connects the two. And basically, it's the difference in the time at the finish from the time at the start. So that will give us our entire race segment, essentially, if you're doing chip scoring. If you're not doing chip scoring, it'll use the actual start time. So you can always create additional segments starting and finishing at any timing location that you have set up. You can learn a bit more about setting up segments here. So another thing that you can do is you can set up occurrences. So you could say, I want to consider up to 5 occurrences at a location. If you had a race, let's say that was a 5K, 10K, that the 10K just did 2 loops of the 5K, you could say, I expect to see 2 finishes at this location or 2 occurrences at this location because I know the 10Kers are going to do 2 laps. And I'm going to set up my finish to be a little bit different. I'm going to say the 10K will finish on the second occurrence and the 5K will finish on the first occurrence. And then you could add in additional segments to say, okay, lap 1 is start occurrence 1 to finish occurrence 1. Lap 2 is finish occurrence 1 to finish occurrence 2, and so on and so forth. You can see segments right down here on the left. And you can basically see that most of this information is set in the scored event for the entire race segment. This is the default segment that's created for each and every scored event you have. And you can add additional segments as needed. So we won't be going too much into segments in today's training. If you want to learn more about it, go ahead and read through some of the guides we have, or get with us in support and we'll get you started. Okay, so age groups and top finishers. It's how to put together your awards categories. So age groups are a breakdown of participants within a single scored event based on their gender and age. So we automatically create an age group report for each scored event that has age groups set up. So this is dependent on what you need or what your race director needs. You might have 5-year age bands, you might have 10-year age bands. That depends on what your race organizer wants. And you can also set up top finisher categories. They're a way to give awards to a top group of participants. Most common we'll see is like a top 3 overall male-female, and then top masters male-female. You can do a whole bunch of custom things and more complicated things using custom top finisher categories based on a custom question. This is a more advanced feature, but it's pretty heavily utilized. So if you had, let's say, a triathlon with Clydesdale Athena as a custom question in your registration, you could say, okay, I want the top 3 people who said Clydesdale to what category are you running question, and it will grab the first 3 participants who have that response in that question. You can learn more about setting that kind of thing up at the link here. In race day scoring, you can go on the left here to the little trophy and select set top finishers to get started with creating those. We're going to walk through this later as well, so don't get too concerned about it. When you are setting up age groups, it just allows you to define the range size, the starting age, the ending age, the number of winners. Again, we're going to talk a little more about this later, so I'm just going to speed through it. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about reports. So race day scoring you can create reports for each scored event. And those reports can have one or many report sections within them. They have a great deal of potential customization. You can spend a lot of time customizing all of the reports and creating new ones. And so basically, scored events can have different report sections available to them based on their setup. So a scored event without age groups cannot add an age group report section. And a scored event without team scoring setup cannot create a team summary report. So some default reports are created automatically when saving different parts of the application. Like when you set up scored events, it'll create a report for you called scored event name overall report, like 5K overall report. If you had 10 scored events, it'll create 10 reports for you. And we just have a default setup of columns that we think is pretty standard, that are automatically created for you, but you have the ability to go in and edit any of the reports that are created for you, as well as build brand new ones, change out the columns, reorder things, do whatever you want with them. So you can go ahead and play around with that as needed. In RaceDay scoring, reports are the little stack of papers on the left, and you'll see all of the different types that you have available to you. You can view reports by just clicking the name of a report. You can edit reports using actions and edit. And you can check out all the different ways to play with the columns. You can add new columns. You can edit the column order. You can drag and drop them. And you can do all sorts of different filtering. So if you needed to do more custom reporting, you have that ability to do so here. If you needed to filter out, like add in a section that's just show me everybody who is from Morristown, New Jersey, you could do that using the participant filtering. Building reports, if you use this green button on the top right, it allows you to completely build a brand new report. You can include any number of events within a single report, one section per event, you could do that. So if you wanted to do a report that was like, show me the top 10 5K runners and then the top 10 10K runners, you could do that. You could add overall sections saying that you wanted to filter to show only the first 10 5K, and then add another section that's just the first 10 10K, and so on and so forth. So we're not going to go into all the detail of building reports because you could spend a really long time on doing just the reporting side of things. But if you need to, you can play around with it and adjust things as needed here. Finally, we're going to talk a little bit about auto-saving reports to RunSignup. So in RaceDay scoring, when you set up your scored events, you get those reports created, and you'll see that there are these auto-save settings here. These allow you to say, I want to publish this report to RunSignup, or you can auto-save to a file, or you can use our kiosk system, which is called RaceDay Hub. Basically, this is the way to make this data available automatically. So as you're scoring a race, the results will automatically publish to RunSignup every 30 seconds. And we're going to walk through that later as well. So I think this is the last part of this portion, what to do when you don't know what to do. We have a really nice, really great support team here with RaceDay Scoring. So if you are having issues with RaceDay Scoring at any time, best way to get in touch with us is to use the help icon in the top right corner while working on a race setup to submit your file to our support team for review if you're stuck on something. This is really great because it allows us to get a copy of the race that you're working on at the time that you submitted the help ticket. So we will be able to see what you're working on. So if you are just playing around or getting started trying to build a race, we really recommend doing that. Try to rescore an old race from last year or something, and you're stuck on a setup, you have a question, just go ahead and submit help, and we'll get back to you and really shortly and tell you the best way to do what you're trying to do. Or if you run into an error that you don't know what to do with, submit a help ticket and we'll help you out. All right, so that is the first portion of the session for today. So I don't know if there are any outstanding questions that needed to be addressed. Let's see. Oh yeah, the slide deck is a bit different. A lot of the screenshots need to be updated in this one. But it sounds like everything else has been taken care of. So what we'll do now is we're going to take a little 15-minute break, and we're going to start up the actual certification part of this next. So we'll come back in at 1 p.m., take a little break, get some food if you need it, get some coffee, and we're going to meet back up at 1 p.m. All right, we're going to get started in just about a minute here. You've gotten yourself snack, use the bathroom, whatever you needed. The rest of the session today, again, is going to be our certification class. So be a little bit more involved. Don't worry, I'll be walking you through each and every single step. And if you have the document that is linked in GoToWebinar, you'll be able to click the certification presentation link to get to the next portion of the session today. And so today's session, like every other, is going to be recorded and published afterwards. So if you ever do need to go back and take a look again at the session, you're able to do so. We'll be putting it out on our YouTube channel for RunSignup. In addition, we make all of the certification classes available after the fact to anyone who needs to certify themselves after the live session. So if one of your teammates missed today's session and you wanted to have them get certified, we'll have a process that we can send them these instructions, and they'll be able to certify themselves on their own time. So without further ado, I think we are ready to go ahead and jump into the class part of today's session. So I'm hoping to get through this. The last time we did this in about an hour and a half. So I'm hoping to get through it in about that same time. But we will see. Again, if you have any questions as we are going along, feel free to put them in the questions panel. We do have people on the back end today. During the certification portion, if you are stuck and you can't get through something, we have people on the back end who are ready to assist you with any questions that you have, and they are ready to send you they'll send you a Google Meet link if they have to do a screen share. So if you need assistance, you need like desktop assistance, someone to come in and help you get through something, they're able to do that. Just put into the chat that you need a screen share or desktop assistance, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible. So I will take today pretty slow. We want to make sure that we get everybody through today's class. So what that means is that a lot of you may be speeding ahead and getting things completed, and that's totally fine. We've provided that doc to you so that if you want to go through the class on your own at your own speed, you can do that. Feel free to go through all of the steps on your own and complete the quiz at the end. But if you like to see things visually and hear me walk you through it, stick through as we go through this a little bit slower, and then complete it in real time. You can complete the test or the quiz at any time. We'll probably grade them and score them and release them sometime early next week. So give yourself enough time to get through it. If you can't do it today, do it tomorrow. That's fine. There's no deadline. If you end up getting to it next week, I'll see the quiz submission pop up and I'll take care of it manually at that time. So let's go ahead and get started. So what is today's purpose? So we had to figure out a way to give everybody a very basic race and teach people how to set that up. So that's the idea here. We're going to be covering how to configure and score a very basic race with RaceDay scoring. We're going to cover all the topics on the right: how to download and install RaceDay scoring, how to create RunSignup race in RaceDay scoring, how to import an example participant list, how to set up a file stream to import example times, how to create a timing location and map your stream to it, how to set up events and age groups, how to collect reads from your streams, how to view reports, and how to finally push all those results to RunSignup. So we are going to go through each of these in depth. Some of the things we kind of briefly talked about in the last session, we're going to dive further into here. At the end of the class, you're going to take a quick quiz to make sure that you paid attention and followed along. It's not something that is really difficult. It's really just making sure that you actually followed along and completed the tasks that we gave to you. So I think most people know how to do this already. If you need to ask for help in the GoToWebinar panel, there's a question portion here you can use, and we'll have people on the back end responding to them. And if there's something that's, I totally missed and needs to be brought up, one of them will speak up and interrupt me and say, hey, can you clarify this or something like that? So yeah, go ahead and put anything in the chat if you deem it necessary. So some necessary items. In order to proceed with today's class, you will need to have these things. Number one, a Windows PC. So we are only using Windows PCs for RaceDay scoring. We're not using Mac. So the reason is that all the middleware, most of the middleware products don't have a Mac version. Most timers use Windows PCs anyways. Two, you need a RunSignup timer account. That's the way that you actually download RaceDay scoring. So you need it in order to actually download it. If you don't have one yet, we'll show you how. You need to install RaceDay scoring. You need to have the latest version, 3.3.25, and some patience. We'll be taking things slow and make sure everyone's on the same page as we walk through these very basic steps of RaceDay scoring. So a lot of the issues that people have with the certification class are actually issues of you don't run into on RaceDay. Problems with like, how do I unzip files that I downloaded from Google Drive? That you don't normally run into these things. Other problems like I need to adjust all my dates because the race is taking place in the future. So I'll walk you through all of it, but most of the hurdles that we see people run into actually aren't problems that people run into on RaceDay, but it'll give you some good experience using the software anyways. So first thing that we need to do is download RaceDay scoring. So let me just do a quick poll. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this up now. Before we get started actually so first off, have you attended a RaceDay scoring certification? I wanna get an idea of how many people here have already attended or how many are brand new, just so I can get an idea so I can change up the presentation if necessary. If everybody here has already done this before, may go into depth a little more. It's looking like about 60% first timers, 40% return customers. All right. And I'm going to do another one now. Just want to make sure, see if everybody on the call today has a Windows PC, if they're using that. Looks like yes. Looks like there is someone maybe on the line who doesn't have a Windows PC. That is required. If you are not able to get it today for today's session, you can get materials after the fact when you have one available to you so that you can complete the course, but you will need a Windows PC in order to complete the course today. All right, continuing on. Do you have a RunSignup timer account? Let's just see who needs to set one up versus who's good to go. All right, looks like most people have got the RunSignup timer account, so that's perfect. Won't have to go into details on the timer account setup, which is great. And does everybody have the latest version of RaceDay scoring installed? All right, it looks like some people are a bit behind on the installs. So what we'll do is just make sure that everybody does get up to date. I'll show you how to do that. If you need to download the software again, you can do that as well. But a few are a little bit behind, which is fine. I'll walk you through how to update everything. So good. Let's continue on. I don't think I need to do any more of these. So if you are on, if you have RaceDay scoring open, you can see here this product information panel under the RaceDay scoring logo. In the right, there's a check for update button. And if there is an update available, it will say update available right here where it says check for update. So if there is one available, just click the button, it will download it and it will install it. It'll tell you what the release notes are. Now, I will say if you were on a very, very, very old version of RaceDay scoring and are trying to update to the latest, you may need to download it directly from the timer dashboard if it's just taking way too long. So sometimes we found that people on very, very, very old versions of the software need to just go ahead and download it from the timer dashboard directly if they're upgrading from that very, very old version. So if that's the case, you may need to just go ahead and go to your timer dashboard, which I'll go through next, and download it directly. So if you're unable to use that automatic updater, this is how you will go to download it from your timer dashboard. So if you don't have a timer account, which most people already do, you would go to just runsignup.com/timer, and you can see your link here to your timer dashboard. If you don't have it, you can create one. This is just talking about how timers work. Basically, you want to make sure that you have a timer organization, not an individual, and how races can add your timer on to their race. But everybody knows that here because everybody's already got timer accounts. So this is where you would download your RaceDay scoring from. If you need to, go to Software, Download, Windows. So I'll just show you here, runsignup.com/timer. Oh, I need to sign in on this computer. One moment. So I have a timer account called Avery Timing. Go to the dashboard. On the left, click Software, Download, agree to the terms and conditions, and then just download for Windows right here. Now, with RaceDay scoring, if you already have it installed, you can download it and install it over the top of your existing software, and there won't be a problem. If you have it running currently, you'll want to shut it down and start it up again after run it, shut it down and then install it. You don't need to uninstall it before installing it using one of these links. When you do that, it'll basically just run the install process and get you to the latest version. And then we recommend incrementally updating as you go. So as you are using RaceDay scoring, you'll see, my application's up to date, but if not, it'll tell you like, hey, there's an update available. And it'll give you all of the features that have come up since last release. So if you click this app version, you'll actually see the last release notes that we had. So every week or every 2 weeks, we have a bunch of new features and bug fixes. So we recommend always keep staying up to date with these as much as possible. So again, we're just going to install that .exe file or make sure you're on the most up-to-date version. For today, you can use RaceDay scoring in demo mode. You'll notice when you launch the software that it'll ask you to enter a serial number. If you have purchased a RaceDay Suite license, you can enter that in there. If not, you can just use it in demo mode. It's unrestricted in demo mode, so you can use that today. If we find out that you're using demo mode to score a whole bunch of races, we'll probably give you a phone call and ask you politely to pay for a license, but it is unrestricted. So you can feel free to use it in any kind of testing that you want. Just be aware that we'll know if you're publishing a ton of results. So keep that in mind. Okay, so basically the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to tell you how to access all of the information that you need. So if you haven't already done so, download the certification information. The name of the file is a bit different, but basically it'll look something like this, and it'll have these different links that you can use to access the materials that you need in order to complete today's class. So let's just see if everybody's on the same page. Were you able to download the files provided? All right, looks like most people were able to access the file here. So if you haven't, it's on the right-hand side in GoToWebinar. There's a section called Handouts. And there's you should see right here on your right, is a drop down for handouts. And you can click this link, it's a PDF, and you'll be able to find it right there. So you can just download that, open it up. I don't think you can see my sidebar, so it's a little bit hard to demonstrate, but it should look something like this. Oops, once I close the poll. Should look something like this once you get it. It's just be a PDF that you can click the links in to get, most importantly, the participant list and the chip read file. All right, so I'm assuming everybody has gotten through that. So next, what you want to do is in that file, in the links to download participant and chip read files, you'll want to click those links, and what it will do is it will download in your browser a participant list zip and a chip read file zip. So these are what we're going to actually use to build the race that we'll be doing the quiz on. So it's really important that you get these files, and I'll show you exactly what it looks like on my end when I do it. So basically, you want to make sure that you unzip the file and place it somewhere handy. So you'll have two folders, a sample participant list and a sample chip read file. So you basically want to just extract it and put it somewhere. You put it in your downloads folder on your desktop or elsewhere. Just make sure that it's somewhere handy for you. So you'll have two of those. And what I'll do is I'm just going to show you exactly what it looks like on my end so we can walk through this. This is like the most difficult part for a lot of folks, so bear with us while we get everybody on the same page. So if you're on your worksheet here, you'll want to download both of these, your participant list and your chip read file. So let's just click participant list, and my browser may look different than yours, but it shows up right here in my downloads. So I'm going to go into my folder, or you can do this manually and find your downloads folder or wherever your browser puts your recently downloaded items. So I have my sample participant list that I just downloaded. I have a few instances of this, but what you can do is either extract all here, or you can right click it and extract all here. If you're on Windows 10 or Windows 8 or something like that, it might look a little different, but you just want to extract this participant file. I would just leave it right here in your downloads folder or wherever it was. Just remember where it was for future reference. Let's go ahead and extract that. And so we should now have a spreadsheet within a folder called sample participant list. Right. Next thing we're going to do is grab our chip read file. So because we can't have everybody install middleware software from a chip system provider and recreate a race that way, we just use a file stream. So what we're providing to you here is a list of all of the reads for an example race that had been scored many years ago. And we're going to basically recreate that race in RaceDay scoring today. So I clicked that link to the chip read file, I'm going to find it. I've got this zipped file called sample chip reads. I'm going to extract it. And it'll put it right here into download/sample chip reads. Extract it. And now I've got sample chip reads. There's actually a folder within the folder called sample chip reads. It's annoying, but this is kind of how the way Drive works, I guess, or Google Drive or Windows, I'm not sure, but there's like 2 layers. There's download sample chip reads and sample chip reads. That'll be really important later in the session, so I'll get to that in a go. But just know that you have this file here called f_3. That's going to be the chip read file that we import down the road. So it'll, it's a MyLapse file. It's not important that you know what this means, but it's what we're going to be using. So it's going to be in my downloads folder under sample chip reads, called f_3. So once you have that, we should have, again, a folder called sample participant list and sample chip reads, and we should be all good to go. So let's see if I have a poll to make sure everybody is on the same page. Yeah. Were we able to unzip the files that you have downloaded? So it looks like most people were able to unzip. Maybe one person was not able to. I see someone is having issues updating. The update can get stuck at 66% for a minute or two. If it's just taking a whole long time, that's when I would recommend downloading it directly from your timer dashboard. If it's just waiting forever, then I would just go ahead and download it from the timer dashboard. It might be faster that way. People are asking where the links were, where the handout was. If you use the link in the handouts, there's a PDF, and you'll see right here that there is, close the poll, there's a participant list and a chip read file. Those links are in this document. So open up this document. It's titled a little bit differently now, but it's titled RaceDay certification information. And then just download the participant list and the chip read file from here. So it seems like most people were able to get things downloaded and extracted. This is like the hardest part of the day, so we should be good to go and smooth sailing going forward. So if you do need assistance, again, put it into the chat and someone will help you out as soon as they're able to. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do in RaceDay scoring is create the race, basic step. So once you have RaceDay scoring installed and uploaded, just go into, open it up, and you'll see a series of blocks here. The first one is manage and score races. This is where you'll spend most of your time. Click manage races here, and that is how we will get started creating this race. Next, we are going to click the button to create a new race. So like I said about the last time, a lot of the times if the race is using RunSignup, you'll import it from RunSignup. Today we're going to recreate an old race, so we're going to build it manually. So it's very difficult to have everybody import the same race on RunSignup and not have someone mess up everyone else's race. So we, for the certification classes, rely on building the races manually and having you upload that to RunSignup. So let's just walk through that on our end here. So I have opened up RaceDay scoring. I've got it on the latest version. I'm going to click Manage Races. And I've already got a whole bunch of races loaded on this machine. You may not, you may. What we're going to do today is go ahead and click Create a New Race right here. And this will be the form that we fill out in our next step. So we need to fill out some basic race information, the race name, the time zone, location, and URL. So let's walk through it. First, select Publish the Race to RunSignup. This will allow you to push results to RunSignup, and it will enable the participant syncing. So when you actually add participants, it will they'll automatically go to RunSignup. And if in the future you decided to use this race to collect registrations, they'll show up in RaceDay scoring. Next, you'll need to fill out the race name. So go ahead and enter your name. Not your name goes here. Enter like Matt Avery, RaceDay certification. Just make sure you put your name and RaceDay certification in there. Should be good to go. Country should be United States. Time zone should be set to America, New York. If you're in a different time zone, you should set that to whatever your computer clock time zone is. Race location. Now this is a test race, so it really doesn't matter what you enter in here. It does have to be a valid zip code, but you can type in something completely random. 123 Test Street works just fine. You do have to have a valid zip code. 11111 works. So just fill out this form, make up a street, city, zip code, and state. Again, doesn't really matter what you put in here. Next, the URL tag. This is generated for you from your race name. So basically, this will be used to create the URL on their result page. So it will just add on. It'll be like runsignup.com/Rochester/New York/Matt Avery RaceDay certification. You do not want to put an actual like HTML or http://www.mattavery.com there. It is not meant to hold your race website. It is meant to be a tag. So just you can leave it exactly as is. It will pre-fill with the race name. If you do get an error saying that this race name or this URL is already being used, you could just make it unique. The problem is that it will not be unique if you just made the race name test. There's probably already a race called test in Rochester, and you just have to add in some numbers at the end of it to make it unique. So if you get an error when you create the race saying that this URL is already in use, just add like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at the end of it, and it'll work fine. Okay, so going down the form, we are going to now set up our event information. Before you do that, I'm just going to show you in scoring again what I'm going to do. So I'm going to publish my race to RunSignup. I have to log in. This allows me to have access to RunSignup. This is my RunSignup login. So I'm going to just log in here, and this will allow me to push the race to RunSignup. Avery RaceDay certification. I'm going to do a second version because I think I already created one of these test ones. 1, 2, 3, test of. All right, my URL tag is fine as is. This little note here just saying, do not put a dot or a slash or a colon. Those cannot be accepted. It has to be just letters, numbers, or spaces. You don't have to enter anything for the race director contact email. You can if you want to. This is like if you were setting up a race on the behalf of or for someone else on RunSignup and you wanted to put in their email address here, you could. Don't have to. The race timer should automatically select the timer account that is associated with the RunSignup login that you used. If you have multiple timer accounts, you can select it here. You don't have to worry about partner token. So that's basic race information, and we are now going to move into the event information. So events in RaceDay scoring are usually unique distances or competitions for your race. You can score many categories within an event if needed, but generally you will want a single event for each distance, like a 5K, 10K, 15K, half marathon, etc. For today, we are only going to need a single 5K event. So when you are filling out the second half of this form, just enter in 5K for the name. You can call it 5K run if you'd like. 5K will make it a little bit easier when we import participants. The next is the dropdown for event type. This doesn't really matter. I would suggest setting it to run or run walk. It's only used for the listing that's created on RunSignup. It's not used at all for scoring, so it doesn't matter. Next, this is fairly important. What we're doing today is we're going to recreate this race that we have reads and participants for from a few years ago, and it was an evening race. So the race started around 7:45 p.m., scheduled to start at 7:45 p.m., let's say. And so what you want to do is set the start time to 7:45. Now, this on this specific date, we are going to say this is in the future, April 4th, 2024. So it's critical that you get the date right for all of these different things in the race. So this all starts with this single field here. Make sure that you get this set to April 4th, 2024. Otherwise, it'll be difficult for you later on. So make sure you get that right. April 4th, 2024. And we're going to say that's going to start at 7:45 p.m. Finally, we're going to be scoring a simple 5K today. So set the distance to 5 and the units to kilometers. Now later down the road, we will tell the system that we want to show pace in minutes per mile. So you don't have to set this to like 3.14 miles in order to get your pace to show in minutes per mile. Our system is completely independent of that. So you can say, I'm doing a 20-mile bike ride and you want to show the pace in like something other than miles per hour, you could do that. You could report a 5K run in miles per hour pace if you wanted to. It's completely flexible. It doesn't depend on the unit type you have set here. So for a 5K, I usually set it to 5K. You could set it to 3.1 miles if you wanted to, but I always recommend sticking with 5 kilometers. So that's the last thing here. Once you have that event info filled out, you would just scroll down and click create. This is going to set up the race. You don't need to create any more events. If you did have a race that had a 5K and 10K, you could create another event right there. For today, we just have a single 5K to create. So just go ahead and click that green create button. So let's just finish this off. So I've got my race info all set up. I'm going to have my 5K. I'm going to say it's a run or run walk. I'm going to say April the 4th, 2024. And it's going to be an evening race. 7:45 p.m. is my estimated start time. And my distance is 5, and my units are kilometers. So once we got all these fields all set up, I should be able to go ahead and click create. And hopefully, no issues. All right, so let's see if everybody was able to get through that portion and see the race loaded screen. So does everybody see the dashboard here? If anybody is having issues with like their suite license or their serial number, you can always just use demo mode today, not a problem. So you should not be having any errors about serial numbers. You can just use demo mode for the time being. All right, so it seems like most people are getting through. Again, if you're falling behind and you need assistance, just type in the chat, I need assistance, and one of our support people will help you out. Okay, so let's keep moving here. The next step that we're going to take is to start the participant sync. So on the left, we're going to walk down that list of menu items. You'll see the little arrows. That's the participant sync area. This is basically going to let us decide if there are additional fields in registration that we want to have made available in scoring. You could select those here. So if this was a real RunSignup race, they may have added things like custom questions, like what category are you racing under, Clydesdale Athena? Are they a part of a club membership? Do they have a USIT number? Things like this would be made available to you in this area. So it allows you, number one, to decide what additional fields will show in RaceDay scoring, and number two, it kicks off the syncing process. So when you click that Save Sync Settings, that's the moment when things will start syncing back and forth between RaceDay scoring and RunSignup. So RaceDay scoring works completely offline. You can use it offline 100%. What happens is when you lose internet connection, we store things in what we call a sync queue. So let's say you're offline at a race and you've moved a bunch of people to different events, or you've changed people's bib numbers, or you've updated their age. Those will show up in this sync queue. So you'll see in this screenshot down here, next to Save Sync Settings, there's a Show Sync Queue. That will show you all of the pending sync items while you're offline. So let's say you timed a trail race in the middle of nowhere, you had a bunch of changes that were made on site. As soon as you get internet connection, again, all of those items will sync up to RunSignup, but you don't need internet connection on the actual site to score the race. So what you need to do again, just go into participant sync, save sync settings, and we are off and running. So the next thing we need to do is import participants. So we downloaded that spreadsheet of participant data, and we are going to go ahead and import it. So today we're importing from a file because it's way easier to demonstrate that to many people at the same time than importing an existing race. So today you're going to be doing things maybe a little bit differently from your normal process going forward if you use a lot of races that use RunSignup. If you were scoring a race that's connected to RunSignup, those participants are going to show up immediately in the app without needing to import them once you have saved the sync settings in the previous step. So maybe after today, you go in, you import a race from RunSignup that you had access to. The participants are just going to show up in there automatically. Today, we're just going to demonstrate how to do it from a file because it's a lot easier to do that for a bunch of people at once. So the next thing you need to do to import participants is go into the Participants tab, the little people's icon on the left, the next one down. You'll see Participants header. And in that header, there is an item or a button to import participants. So we should have already done this, but if you haven't, you can download the participant list here. You'll need to unzip it if you didn't already do that. So just need to find that file. So this is just showing how to unzip it in case you missed that earlier. So you should be able to just browse for that file you just unzipped. The fields should automatically map correctly. You'll scroll down on that page and click Set Field Mappings. I'll show you in the next slide, and I'll show you in real time. Start the import, and then verify that 1,825 participants were imported. So this is what it's going to look like when you select the file. Just go down and add or update participants. 1825 should be added. So let's just walk through that. I got my participant sync. I'm going to save sync settings. So now things are going to be syncing back and forth with RunSignup. I'm going to click participants and teams, and I'm going to go to import. Now I'm going to select the spreadsheet to import adds or updates from. I'm going to select a spreadsheet, and I'm going to find that folder with my sample participant list. And I'm just going to select the file here. I'm going to open it. And this is a mapping. So it's saying that I found a column called first name in the file. So I'll just show you really quick. I've got my my spreadsheet here. Just give me a moment to load it up. This is your standard looking participant file: bib number, first name, last name, city, state, zip, gender, age, and event name. So it's seeing these columns: bib name, bib number, first name, last name, city, state, zip, gender, age, and event name. And it's going to have to map to something else in RaceDay scoring. So it says, oh, I saw this column called first name, column B. And it already knows that that probably is first in our language, so it automatically selects that one. If this were wrong, you could update and say, no, actually age was first name or whatever. Most of the time, this is going to map for you perfectly fine, but you will want to double check it as you're importing any spreadsheets. Make sure that things are correct. If you had it set up as like sex instead of gender and it didn't map correctly, you may need to fix that. If you had provided DOB, you can map it here. For today, it's going to be perfect because I made this file and I know that everything auto maps. Like zip code automatically maps to our postal code, so on and so forth. So there's all sorts of things you can do with this import. One thing that's important to know, if you map this RunSignup registration ID column, like if you downloaded a spreadsheet from RunSignup, it's going to process like an update. So instead of adding participants, it's going to update participants based on this registration ID. So don't map this unless you are actually trying to update instead of add. So today, don't need to do anything with that. You should just be able to go in and select the file, scroll all the way to the bottom, and click add or update participants. 1825, that's what we're looking for. And we're going to start the import. So it should take just a second, and it will tell me I've added 1825 participants and 0 have been updated. So that should be good. Let's just go back to the slides here. And let's just see if everybody was able to get through that last bit. Were you able to import the participant list? It looks like most people did get to it. I'm going to run through it one more time just to make sure. There's a couple that didn't quite get there. So I'm going to delete all my participants just to show it again. I'm going to go into let me close the poll first so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, now you can see. So I am in the participants and teams area. I'm going to import right here. I'm going to select the spreadsheet. I'm going to pick the spreadsheet. And then I'm going to be able to map the different columns. And finally, I'm going to add or update participants. All right, so let's continue on. Looks like most people are up to speed here. So next, we're going to move on to streams. So again, just a quick overview. Streams are the way that we get data from chip systems, either using a direct import, like a TCP/IP exporter from middleware, or through a file import. Today, we're going to use a file import because it's obviously not easy to get everybody set up with MILAPS timing and scoring and give them access to a file to be able to play the reads through. So today we're going to do a file stream. So file streams are actually a recommended way to score in RaceDay scoring anyways. They're just as fast as a direct importer. It's not like a manual file process or manual drop. Basically, we look at a folder, and whenever new reads show up in that folder, we automatically bring them in. So it's a very, very, very quick process. One thing to understand about RaceDay scoring is that we never point directly to a single file. We point to a folder, and we consider all times from all files within that folder equally. So basically, you'll have, let's say, a folder called finish, and you may have multiple files within that folder. Some chip systems create multiple different files that are actually the same location. So we had to make the system such that you're not referencing a single file all the time. You're referencing everything inside of a folder. This is really important to know about because what it means is that you want to keep a really clean folder structure. You want to have a folder with just timing data in it. So you do not want to have a folder with like race info PDFs or participant lists in a chip reads folder. That's going to throw things way off. So make sure that when you're using file streams, you got a nice clean setup. There's only timing data inside of the folder that you're pointing to. The other part of this that's important to recognize is that you're basically going to be just addressing the folder itself. So you're not going to be able to, when you're browsing for this folder, you're not going to be able to see any of the files inside of it. You're just going to address the folder. So today we're going to be doing a MyLapse file integration. There's other chip systems out there that handle things completely different. So RFID timing has a very specific way of handling files. They have to be named an IP address. IPCO and Trident systems are different. And so we have these guides on how to do these different types of integrations. I can't do each and every single one today. We'd be here for way too long. But we do have some guides out there if you're looking for specific instructions on a different chip system. And again, we have more information on all sorts of different integrations at the bottom here. Today, we're just going to do MyLapse because it was one of the easier ones to show. And this is just showing you all the different help guides we have. So now we're going to actually add the stream. So we're going to go to the next item in the list, streams. We're going to create a new stream. So on the right here, you see the add stream button. Go ahead and click that. Now, before we do this, some people, if you've used RaceDay scoring in the past, will have used the settings button to limit the type of available streams. So let's say you're a timer who only uses MyLapse. You can tell the system in your global settings here, I only ever want to see MyLapse because there's too many items in the list. It looks cluttered to me. I don't want that. So if when you're walking through this, like you only see ChronoTrack systems, it may be because you've already set up your settings to say, I only want to see ChronoTrack stuff. So if you have that, I would just go in and make sure this is blank. So just make sure that the stream settings are blank so you can see all the options. Okay, so now that we understand the global settings, click Add Stream and title it something. I have it set to be MyLapse File Finish. It doesn't really matter what you name it, just something identifiable. The way MyLapse works is folders are created for each location you have set up in timing and scoring, which is their middleware product. So usually you'll have a folder for finish, a folder for start, a folder for checkpoint 1, a folder for checkpoint 2, so on and so forth. So for today, we're going to have a folder sample chip reads that's going to contain all my finish reads. So I'm going to call this stream MyLapse File Finish so it makes sense to me. Again, these streams are reusable between races on a computer, so you could have a single stream called MyLapse File Finish and use it on a different race down the road if you want, or you can just create new ones for each, doesn't really matter. So the next setting here is the stream type. Streams come in two main varieties, direct and file. Each chip system type will use a file or direct a stream type depending on your needs. Direct streams use a connection via TCP/IP to either a device itself, in the case of iPico and Trident, or the middleware provided by your hardware, in the case of things like MyLapse and ChronoTrack. File streams reference a folder on your computer's hard drive where chip read files will be placed and updated either by a device itself, middleware, or even potentially from a cloud syncing service like Dropbox, Google Drive, or OneDrive. Today, we're going to set up a MyLapse ReadLite file stream. So next thing we're going to do, after adding the stream, entitling it MyLapse File Finish, is select from the stream type dropdown, file, custom, or chip system type. All of the different file streams are available through this option. You can see down below that there's a bunch of different direct options. All of the ones that are file are within this custom or chip system type. So first, select file, custom, or chip system type. And then when you do this, a second dropdown will show up called file type. And from that one, you can select which kind of file you're going to be importing. So it'll show all these different options for all the different chip systems out there. You today are going to select MyLapse ReadLite file from the second dropdown. Now, just to note, this is going to update the first dropdown, stream type, to say MyLapse ReadLite file. So it'll like duplicate itself. This is how it works. Don't need to worry about it. So I'll show you exactly what that looks like. I'm going to add a stream called MyLapse File Finish. First step, select file, custom, or chip system type. Next, I'm going to select what kind of file stream. So I have all these different companies in here, and I'm looking for MyLapse ReadLite file. So now watch what happens to stream type. It changes to MyLapse ReadLite file. That's fine. It's okay. Don't worry about it. That's how it's supposed to work. So you'll see in the end that MyLapse ReadLite file will show up for stream type. That's fine. Again, first step, select file, chip system, or custom, then select MyLapse ReadLite from the second dropdown, and then they'll match each other. So here's just showing that. First thing, select file, custom, or chip system type. And then from the file type, select MyLapse ReadLite file, and then the stream type and file type will match. Okay, next we are going to select the folder path. Remember, file streams do not reference a file itself, but a folder which can contain one or many files. All the reads from all the files in that folder are going to be combined into one single stream of data, like one big stream, which can be used on one or many locations for scoring purposes. So today we need to create a folder on the computer. We actually already have that, called sample chip reads, and then we just point the stream to that folder that was set up for us. So in the folder path area, just select browse. And we're going to try and find that sample chip reads folder. So this is just showing you, if you haven't already, downloaded it and unzipped it. How to unzip it if you need to do that. We are all good there. So this is just showing, okay, I'm going to go into sample chip reads, go all the way down the folder structure because there's two different, it's like a sample chip reads, then sample chip reads. Basically, you want to make sure you get all the way to the bottom of the folder structure for the way this zip file worked out. So just make sure that there's no items at the end here. You're just at the very final folder where that last file is. So just to note, again, you're not going to see the actual chip read file in this view. Because of the way Windows works, it limits the view to only folders. So you're not going to see the file. Even though it exists in there, you're not going to see it. The thing you want to make sure that you do is get the right folder selected. So let's just take a look. So I've got my folder path here. I'm going to browse. I'm going to go back to my downloads. I've got sample chip reads. I got sample chip reads inside of that folder. And finally, I've gotten to the last folder, and there's no items in here. It's looking only for folders, so it's filtered out all of the actual files in here. That's fine. Click select folder, and we'll be good to go. So you can just double check yourself. Go to your file browser, go to downloads, go to sample chip reads, click it again, and there should be this F_3 at this address, which should be the same as right here. So just make sure that these two match, and you'll be good to go. We already talked about unzipping, but again, just kind of making it super clear that there may be, I think it always happens to me, but maybe not for you. There's always 2 levels of this. So just make sure you get the correct folder when you're setting this up. Again, this is one of the things that's a complexity that only happens during the certification class. For a normal race, it's usually much more straightforward. It's usually just a file called finish that you would look for. So next, we're going to set the file extension. So this is optional. You don't have to do this. It is a feature that's nice to know about. You can, the MyLapse files, the readLite files themselves, always end in .txt. So you can use this file extension as a way to filter out other files. We don't recommend having other files in that folder, like I said, but if you wanted or needed to limit your files that you're importing from a folder to only those of a certain type, you could do that by using the file extension filter here. So let's go ahead and do it anyways. It doesn't really matter, but it's good to just use. So just type in txt into the file extension. Do not include a period before it. It's not going to work. So make sure that it is just txt, no dot. So here I've got my txt. I think I have that set up by default. Finally, we're going to select the system type. So different chip systems have different system types. In this case, MyLapse has 2 types of systems, ProChip and BibTag. If you're a MyLapse timer, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. For today, just select BibTag here because that's the kind of file we're working with. Next, we are going to take this stream and assign it to a location. So what we're going to say is that this finish stream is going to be used for my finish location. So this is a way to just say, okay, I know that this stream is going to be used at this location down the road. If you already have locations set up, which we do by default, you can just go ahead and map it right away. So if you just select this drop down here, it'll give you a list of available timing locations. We've created 2 for you by default called start and finish. Just select the finish one here under the main stream. So it's not critical for today, but it's very much recommended to always assign chip systems as main streams. Backup streams are really meant to be used only for if you're doing a manual backup system. Manual streams are basically saying that it will only ever use data from this stream if this person was completely missed on the main, and it will automatically use that. So we really only recommend using that for like manual backup solutions, like you typed into a spreadsheet or you use a time machine and you backed up the data, things like that. You really don't want to use this for like your secondary chip system if you had multiple streams set up for each and every single reader. So at the end of the day, if it's a chip system, best practice is to assign it as a main stream. And you can assign multiple streams to a single location, so you don't need to worry about having multiple readers at a location. But today, just make sure as you're setting up your stream, you assign it to the finish, because that's all we're doing today. Next, we're going to use this setting here to adjust the stream read dates and times. So this is, again, something that may or may not be applicable to you. But we, in this case, have our data from an old race from many years ago that we're going to say happens in the future. So what we need to do is say that all of the dates in this file are actually occurring in the future on the 4th of April 2024. So we need to transform all of those reads to whatever day it was. So you'll see this big note panel here, and it's telling you that this system doesn't actually provide date in the passing data. So that means that all of the actual times are just in time of day, but it doesn't tell you what day it took place on. And because the date of this fake race we're timing is out in the future, the system is not going to know what to do. And when it doesn't know what to do, it just says, oh, I guess they're today, which is not going to work because today isn't April 4th, 2024. So what you need to do is set this to the race date for today. You have to make sure this is set to April 4th, 2024, so that all of the reads show up on the correct day. Otherwise, you're going to have a heck of a time getting the filtering to work out because all of the reads will show up as if they were today, and they're saying, nope, that's before your time cutoff. So make sure you get this right. I always recommend just setting this to the race dates, especially if the system doesn't have date in the passing. Because if, let's say, you score the race on a Sunday and on Monday you do some result corrections and you need to replay all your data through, it's going to say, oh, these reads occurred on the day after the race now, and that's not going to be good. So if you get this message that the date is not in the passing data because your chip system doesn't provide date, make sure you set this to the race date. Now, you don't need to worry about any of the other stuff beneath this. There's things that you can do here, specifically the adjust range of reads to another date or time is really helpful if you forget to change your reader date or reader time for daylight savings, let's say, and you need to say all of the times before this time of day are actually an hour off. You can adjust them individually like that. Today we don't touch it, no need to worry about it, but feature is there if you need it. So we're just gonna click save. So just as an overall review of the stream setup, we're going to set the stream name, MyLapse file finish, the stream type, the file type, the folder path, making sure we got to the furthest down folder. This screenshot's wrong, should be down one more level. The file extension, the bib tag system type, assigning the stream to a timing location of finish, and setting the stream read date to the day of the race. So now I'm going to walk you through it. This is a bit of info, so let's just make sure we got everything. So I'm going to cancel out, got nothing here. I'm going to go to my streams. I'm going to go to add stream. And I'm going to say MyLapse file finish. Next, I'm going to select the stream type. It's a chip system file. And from the second drop down, I'm going to pick read light. I'm going to select my folder path. Let's say I wasn't already in that folder. I'm going to find my sample chip reads folder, and I'm going to dig down to the very bottom of it where I know that file is. I'm going to select that folder. All right, looks good. File extension is already there. If I left this blank, by the way, it tells me here, all the files in the folder will be used. But since I know it's a TXT file, this should work just fine. Okay, next system type is bib tag. And next, I am going to select what location to use this stream on. I'm going to use this for the finish. We're not going to do the start today. We're just going to do a finish only. Finally, I'm going to make sure that all of these reads show up on the actual race date and not today by setting the adjust stream read dates and times to April 4th, 2024. That should be everything that I need. So now I have my stream saved, and you should see it show up in my assigned streams list. This means that it's actually assigned to a location in the race that I have open. Okay, so let's see
where we are at. Was everybody able to get their streams set up, or are they still working on it? Someone was asking that does the date adjustment stick to the stream? It sticks within the race, but if you reuse it, it gets reset. So you have to make sure that you, when you're reusing streams, double check that setting absolutely, especially if it's a system type that doesn't include date in the passing. All right, looks like most people were able to get through this. Do you have a few people who are still behind a little bit? So again, if you need assistance, feel free to drop in the questions saying that you need help, you're really stuck on something. If not, we're gonna continue going on. So the next thing we're gonna do is set up timing locations. And once we get through that setup, we're gonna take a little break again. So we're getting through the tough stuff. Streams is really difficult. Getting the files extracted is really difficult. So just once we get past this part, it's gonna be really smooth sailing. Okay, timing locations. Again, just a little review. Timing locations are collections of one or many streams of read data. You may have like multiple files that you are putting into multiple folders that need to be turned into a single location. You can do that. The read data from all of those streams is filtered based on a location type. Reads at a start location are selected based on the last time seen for each bib, and for finish or split locations, the reads are selected based on the first time seen. Most importantly, timing locations are where we set up our time filters. You notice we didn't set up anything about filtering of times on the stream itself. We are just getting the raw data from the streams. These locations are where I say, I only want to reference some portion of the reads. Again, it is possible to have one stream pointing to many different locations. I could have a finish that is used for a 5K and a 10K finish, and I want to split out locations because I want to say that my 5K should only have reads between 7 and 9, and my 10K is later on in the day. It's 1 p.m. to 2 or to 5 p.m. or something like that. You could do that. It's totally fine. Additionally, multiple streams can be tied to one location. This is helpful for systems where you're connecting directly to a reader. So IPECO systems, if you're using 2 at the finish line, you would actually have to have 2 streams, both tied to the same location. For today, you don't need to worry about that because MyLapse handles that all in the middleware. Those systems that don't have middleware like IPECO, you kind of got to do things differently. So this allows you to have multiple devices assigned to the same location, or a single device assigned to multiple locations at once. This latter can be useful if you need to have separate time filters for one event if you have multiple distances running over the same location at different times. So you'll notice that when we set up the streams, there was already locations out there. There was a start and a finish. We just automatically do that for ease of setup purposes, but you can decide what you want to do with those. You can delete them, you can rename them, you can create new ones and use those instead. It is up to you. So if you want, you can delete locations and assign the streams later. You don't have to. If you want to, they're there for you to use. If you don't want to use them, you can create new ones and delete the old ones. It's totally fine. Now, today we are going to use the default finish, and we're going to leave the start location out there. You don't have to use it if it exists. And if no one gets chip starts, it doesn't matter. Everyone just uses the gun time instead of their chip time if they got one. So in order to get started, we're going to select the little pin icon on the left, locations, and you'll see 2 locations here, start and finish. And what we're going to do is select settings for the finish. And in here, we're going to tell it what kind of time filtering we're going to do. When do we want to start considering finish times, essentially? So open up locations, select settings for the finish, and the top section should be completed for you. We automatically create a finish location. We automatically set it up as a finish and our split time type, meaning that only the first read for each participant who hits this location will be selected, as long as they are within the parameters I've set below. So down here under the finish and split point read settings, this is where I say, okay, I only want to accept finish reads after 8:01 p.m. because I know this race started at 7:45 or 7:46 or so, and I know that I don't have any speedy people here. It's going to be like 17, 18, 20-minute 5Ks, whatever. So I'm going to make sure to filter out any of those earlier finish times because I don't want anybody who crossed over the finish area on their way to the start because they showed up late to get red, right? So what you're going to do is set this to 8:01 p.m. on the 4th of April, 2024. So again, super critical to get this set correctly. It should default the date in properly from your event date that you set up way back when you created the race. So if you see something different here, it might be that you plugged in the wrong date in that very first step. So just double check, make sure that it is the 4th of April, 2024. And we're going to set it to 8:01 because I know that in this file, no valid reads are before 8:01. So again, this is saying that I'm only going to accept raw reads and turn them into scored reads if they are within these parameters, if they are after 8:01. So I'll still be able to see the raw read data, but they won't be selected to use to create segment times. Next, we are going to set the maximum occurrence count. So occurrence count is basically if you're doing a 5K, 10K on the same finish location and the 10Kers run over that location twice, you want to say that the 10Kers finish on the second occurrence of the reads there. So in this case, we are only saying one occurrence. It's a basic 5K. They're just coming out and running and hitting the finish line once. So there's just one occurrence here. Now, there's all sorts of things. If you get into common start-finish locations, you'll have always two occurrences because the start is an occurrence and the finish is an occurrence. In this case, it's dead simple, just a single occurrence at a finish location. You can get into more advanced stuff later as you are exploring race day scoring with more complicated scenarios. For today, just going to say we're only going to use one occurrence per participant. So we are going to take a coffee break at this point, but I wanted us to double check to see if everyone has caught up and we are good. So let's just actually first, before I do that, let me show it to you. I didn't do that quite yet. So let's go to timing locations. I've got my start and my finish. I'm going to click settings. Now I'm just going to verify this top section should be all done for me. It's a finish or split times. I'm not going to worry about any of these other settings. I'm not doing an announcer. I've got my MyLapse file finish here. And now what I need to make sure to do is click here in my time of day and say that I know 8:01 will be the earliest legitimate read for this race. Make sure we got PM, because remember it's an evening race. So 8:01 PM is going to be the very first time I would expect to see someone cross the finish line. And I'm going to set my max number of occurrences to 1. Again, if I were collecting multiple reads or expecting multiple reads, I could change this. As you see, if I said I was doing like 4 laps, I could define minimum time between reads over here to say like, if you're doing multiple laps, I know that each lap should take no less than 14 minutes or something. You could do that here. Again, just going to do one occurrence today. Very simple, straightforward race. So we should be good to go with these settings. All we got to really do is make sure we got the date and time right and the max number of occurrences set to 1. Should be good there. Let's just see if everybody was able to get their timing locations set up. Good, looks like everybody is all set. Perfect. Right, I think we are pretty much good to go. We have 1 or 2 people having some issues. What we're going to do now is, again, just feel free to reach out if you're having problems. We're going to take a 7-minute break or so and come back, let's say 2:25. 10-minute break. If you need to grab something to eat or use the restroom or some coffee, go for it. We are going to circle back in about 10 minutes, 10:25 p.m. EST. We're getting pretty close to the bottom of this. I know it's a long day, so thank you for sticking around with us, and we will talk to you again shortly. All right, it's 2:25. Get back into it. So get yourself comfortable. We're pretty close to being done. We don't have too many more complicated steps to get through. So let's go ahead and get started. So we've gone through our participants, we've imported participants, we've set up our streams, so we know where to look for reads. We've set up our timing locations, so we know which read to select for each participant. Now we're going to get into our scored event setup, which is, again, how I decide how times are calculated. So let's get started. Just to review again, registration events are all the different categories that a registration provider has created. In this case, we were the registration providers because we manually did it. So we just had a single registration called 5K Run. We need to create a single scored event for that single registration event. So in this case, it's very simple. We're just going to do a one-to-one single scored event called 5K Run that includes our only registration event called 5K Run or 5K, whatever you had called it. So what you're going to do in RaceDay scoring is go to the Scored Events tab, which is, I believe, the next one in the list on the left. And then you'll see this little banner show that some registration events are not mapped to scored events. So we are going to use the Quick Setup button here to automatically set this up for us, because we know it's a one-to-one, there's a 5K, and I'm going to create a 5K scored event for that registration event. So when you click Quick Setup, it'll just drop in this new panel. And a lot of this information is going to be set up for you by default. It'll be named the name of the registration event that you have included. You can change that if you like. We are going to score by clock time today. If you had selected chip time, it wouldn't change anything because we're not actually collecting chip reads in this case. One thing you can do is exclude chip time when generating default reports. It isn't a requirement, but it just cleans up the report a little bit. If you don't do this, the default report will have chip time in there, and the chip times are going to be exactly the same as the clock times. So you can do that. Click that checkbox to exclude the chip time when generating default reports. And the next thing that's really, really important is setting the actual start time. So in this particular race, we started a little bit early, 7:44:00.013 p.m. and then save. So this is what we'll need to do. So let's walk through it. I've got my timing locations all set up. Streams are all set up. Scored events are next. And it's telling me that I haven't mapped some of my registration events. So I'm just going to use Quick Setup. It'll create a scored event for each registration event. It'll say it's called the 5K. It's perfect. It's set the default event distance to 5. The unit is kilometers, and the default pace display type is minutes per mile, which is what you would normally want. You can do any of these other ones if you need to for different types of events. for a 5K, that's exactly what I want to see. So I am going to sort by clock time. I am going to exclude chip time when generating default reports. I see that my 5K is my included registration event here. If I had other events, I could select them if they were also 5 kilometers. If not, they would be grayed out. I would not be able to select them. I'm not going to select a default scored event. This is a special use setting. Basically, this will say any participants from registration events that are not included in other scored events will be included in this scored event. This is like I don't know, you had a 5K and a bunch of other random events and you wanted everyone in a single one. You could use this checkbox and just say everybody who is in any other registration event, just dump them into this one. Typically, you don't use this, so I suggest avoiding it unless you understand exactly what it does. The timing location info should be good to go out of the box. It doesn't matter that start is selected here. You could also change this to not a time start, but we're not collecting start reads, so their start times are going to be the same as the gun time. So no harm in leaving this as start. You also could change it to not a time start if you wanted. Doesn't really matter. Finish timing location is going to be finish. I don't have any other locations that are valid because no other locations exist that are of a finish location type. And everybody in the 5K is going to finish on the first occurrence. So if I had that setup before that I was talking about with a 5K and a 10K, and this is the 10K and they did 2 laps, I could say actually for the 10K, their finish occurrence was the second time they crossed the finish line, not the first. But in this case, it's going to be 1. Okay, so down below here, I'm going to set my actual start time to 07:44:00 013. Yes, 013 p.m. evening race. So that looks good. And we're going to go ahead and click save. We should be good. So let's just make sure that everybody has gotten through the scored event setup. If I have a poll for this. I do not have one for this. So I think everybody should be good with this one. If you're still having trouble, feel free to put it in the chat. We're gonna keep going ahead. So I had mentioned before that there's a bunch of different ways to set start times. Today, we already knew the start time of day. This could be like, you have someone out at a remote start and they have a GPS watch that they mark the time of day on that is accurate, and they write it down or they text it to you and you enter it into your system after the fact. So that's one way that you can set start times. There are other ways to set start times in race day scoring. You can, from the dashboard of the race, you can start it right now. So if you're actually on site, on the dashboard, there's this set start times button. You could say, I'm going to go ahead and start this right now, and it will enter it in for you as right now. So if you are the type of person who always has your computer clock synced to your reader times, you could use the start now option and it will act like a PC clock. And since we have already started the race, we'll see that I have an upcoming start time way off in the future. If it were actually on the day of the race, this will be a timer. It'll show like I'm 5 minutes into the race, or I'm 10 minutes into the race, or whatever. So that's another way that you can set start times. And what this does when I actually do this is it will set this value right here, this actual start time value will be set from the dashboard. So at the end of the day, this is what is setting your start times. There's no concept in race day scoring of starting or stopping the race. All you're doing is saying the time of day of the start was whatever I have here, and the time of day of the finish I get from my chip reads. And I just determine the difference between the two, and that's my 5K time. So you don't have to worry about like, have I stopped the clock? There's no concept of stopping the clock. It's just the difference between the start time and right now, or the difference between the start time and whatever time of day someone finished. So the other way that you can collect start times is through gun trigger records. So certain systems have a special read like called gun time that comes through. And if you are familiar with like MyLapse, they have this system where you can have a little plunger and it will mark a time of day on the reader. When that comes through in RaceDay scoring, we can take that and automatically set your start times using that. We have a guide on how to do that. It's a little bit more of an advanced setup. If you like using gun markers or gun trigger records, you can learn about that there. It'll basically just say if you got, let's say you got 3 gunshots on your reader, you can say gunshot 1 should be my marathon start, gunshot 2 should be my half marathon start, gunshot 3 should be my 5K start, and it will figure it all out and do it automatically for you. Additionally, we have things called corrals in RaceDay scoring, which are like wave starts. Basically, let's say you have 5 people who did an early start. You could put them into an early start corral and say they started an hour before everyone else, and that way they will be able to get their start times correctly accepted or adjusted for, or have their finish times adjusted for an earlier start time of day. You could use that for all sorts of stuff. If you're doing triathlons, you can set up, you got your pink swim cap corral, your blue swim cap corral, so on and so forth. So we have a lot of guides on how to set up those different start times, which are available to you here today. We're just going to plug it in manually because it's easy, but I wanted to give you an overview of the different ways you could do it. Next, we are going to be talking about top finishers. So we're going to get into our awards area next. So in addition to our age groups, we're also going to be having top finisher categories. So first we're going to set up top finishers, then we're going to set up age groups. So we're going to have top 3 overall male-female and top 1 masters male-female. Anyone over 40 qualifies for that. So first we're going to go to the little trophy icon for age groups, and then in the top toolbar, we're going to click set top finishers. And you'll see when you use the screen, it does say 5K age groups. When you are working in a race that has multiple events, like 5K, 10K, 15K, you would have to make sure that you're selecting the right event in the left-hand toolbar there. So it'll list 5K, 10K, 15K in that little left-hand area. And so you'll need to set up your age groups for each and every event you have. Now we have ways to copy between different things and so on if you don't want to type it in or do it all manually. But I just want to make it clear that when you are setting this up, you're setting it up for one event at a time. So first, let's just go in and select set top finishers. When you get into the top finisher band, just click the add another band option here. It'll drop in this setup screen on the right. And we're just going to call the first one we're going to call it overall. You can leave the short description, nothing, or you can type whatever you want in there, OV maybe. It basically replaces some of the reports. It'll show the short name instead of the long name, just to make it fit on the screen a little bit better. So we are going to use the defaults, the top 3 male and female for each. So in this screen, you can say what the starting age for the top finisher category is, what priority it is, and a few other things. The defaults are going to work for today, but basically you have the ability to customize this to a pretty great degree. And for now, though, it's just going to be anybody over the age of 0 will qualify for this band. So give me the first 3 males, the first 3 females, and if you have any in your database, first 3 non-binary. We are going to use the option to remove overall winners from age groups. This means if you won overall, you don't get your age group award, you only get your overall award. So to go with today, we're just going to set title it overall and save, and we are all set. And then you'll see overall listed at the top of the menu here, and then we're going to click add another band to add our masters category. Now, because it's very typical to have overall, masters, veterans, super veterans, we default in the starting age to 40 for the second band you add. So you'll see on the right here, I've called it masters and the starting age is 40, which is exactly what you would want for masters age, masters top finishers. So you can leave that as is. We are going to be creating a masters band today. And then set all of the gender to 1. Now, this has no impact if you don't have any non-binary people in a database. It's not going to show anywhere. So you can leave it at 0. You can set it to 1. It totally depends on what you're working with, what your race director wants. Don't worry if you set this to some value, it's not going to show up in the results unless you actually had people in that gender category in your database. So you can set it, you can not set it, totally, it really doesn't matter. It only applies if you actually have people in that gender in your race you're working on. So we're just going to set this to 1 because we're only going to say over our masters get the first overall award. Now you'll see once you add a second band, we have some additional options at the bottom for band jumping rules. This is basically how we determine whether or not if someone qualifies for more than one band, which band they should get. So let's say a 50-year-old gets first overall. Should they get an overall award or should they get a master's award? Because they qualified for the master's award. They're over 40, but they're also over 0, right? So if you say all, that means that you always will jump to that the highest band in the order on the left here. So if I'm 50, I will always jump up to get the overall award because it's a better value, let's say. If you say none, you always get stuck in the lowest band that you qualify for on the left. So if I set this to none and I was 50 and I got first overall, I would get first masters and not first overall. That's saying no jumping. You do not jump up, even though the overall may be higher in that priority. Double dip means, hey, if you got first overall and you're over 40, you get 2 awards, overall first and masters first. And by rule is a special thing where you can program in different values for the top 5 by gender for each category. So you could say like, you can plug in the award money for each. You could say first overall is $750, second overall is $500, third overall is $250, first masters is $350. So if you get third overall, would you want first masters or would you want third overall? And it would compare the values and see, oh, the masters award is $350, the third overall award is $250, so you get the better value and you get masters first instead of third overall. And it determines that based on whatever you plug in there. So some cool stuff you can do. You can also set up participant filtering to say, I want to create a band of only the people who have said they are a Clydesdale division category in a custom question. You could do all sorts of stuff with top finisher categories. We have all sorts of guides that you can go through and learn more about that later. But for today, we're just going to do overall masters. So let's click X here. And we should be all set after saving this, we have to click X. So it'll tell you that you have to save before you click X. So before we move on to age groups, I'm going to show you top finisher categories. So I'm going to go down here to my little trophy. I'm going to click set top finishers. I'm going to click add another band. My default is overall. I don't need to set a short description. I could if I wanted to, doesn't really matter. I don't need to worry about score by gun time. Shown separate, that's good. You can do combined if you like had a kids run where they only cared about the top 3 regardless of gender. We're going to show separate today and I'm going to save it. And now that looks good. I'm going to click overall. I'm going to click add another band. I'm going to do my Masters Award winners and say MA, starting age of 40, priority 2, looks good. And instead of 3, I am going to say 1 for all of these. And I'm going to leave my band jumping where it was at all, because that's what I think is most fair. So I've got that all set, and I'm going to click save. All right, so should be all good with that. And let's see. Next, we are going to add age groups. Let me see if we have a poll at the end of age groups to see if everybody's on the same page. So we're going to get through age groups and then poll. Age groups are pretty straightforward. They are your ranges of age groups that you want for this race. So we were already in the age groups area. We're going to click range insert in the little toolbar here. This is the really fast way to add a bunch of age groups at once. We want 5-year age bands. So if I want 5-year age bands, I'm going to change this range size to 5. I'm going to select which genders I want to build age groups for. In this case, just male and female is fine. I'm going to start at 10. I'm going to end at 79. I'm going to select 3 winners per group. And then I want it to automatically create upper and lower age groups. So it'll say 1 to 9 and 80 to 99. It'll create the upper and lower bounds for me automatically. So here you'll see on the right, when you do this, what you'll be looking at. You'll see range size, gender, starting age, ending age, number of winners, insert upper and lower age groups, and on the right, it will give you a little preview of what's going to be dropped in once you select that button to add age ranges. So let's walk through that. I've already got my top finisher category set up in this age groups team types area. And I'm not going to do single insert. You could if you wanted to spend all day adding these one by one. I'm going to use the range insert, and I can adjust it on the fly if I need to after the fact, but it's much easier to just do this. So by default, I see that I have 10-year age bands. But let's say in this race, they actually wanted to do 5-year age bands. They got a lot of awards to give out. And instead of starting at 20, I want to start at 10. And you'll see my adjustments happening in real time. Ending age 79, number of winners 3. I do want to insert my upper and lower ranges. If I said no, you'll see it gets rid of those 1 to 9 and 80 to 99s. So this looks good. I'm going to go ahead and click add age ranges. So you'll see it drops in all of my age groups here. Now, if I don't like the way certain things look, I could change the name of the age group or the short name. If I like, it to look a certain way, I can adjust that. The number of winners, I have it all set to 3. Maybe the case that you give more winners or more awards out to the kids. You can adjust those individually here. If you had a bunch of different events, you could copy all your age groups from one event to another. You can export them to a file. If you have like a standard set of road racing age groups you use for every single one of your races, you can create a little file and import that into other races. But for today, we're just going to go ahead and click save. Okay, so we verified it. We've added the age groups, and we should be all good to go. So let's see where people are at. Were we able to set up our top finishers and age groups? All right, seems like everybody is on the same page. We're doing really well. All right, so I think we can continue on. And we are pretty much ready to start collecting reads. So we are getting close to the end here. So what you'll want to do is just go back to the dashboard and click the little home icon. And we're going to start collecting reads. So you'll see in the app, there's this little toolbar here. We're going to toggle this on when we are ready to actually start looking for reads in the file or in the folder we've set up under our streams here. So I've already got the reads in there and they're waiting, ready to be picked up. So I'm going to start collecting reads, and this will kick off the process that will start to look for stuff in that folder, and it'll automatically process any reads that are already in that file folder and bring them into RaceDay scoring in just a minute. So it takes a few seconds for it to process the first time starting up, but you should start seeing reads flow in, and it's a little jumpy because it's processing like a few thousand reads at once. When you're actually on Race site, it processes them much quicker one by one. When you're dropping everything at once, it's a little bit slow. So you should see all these times start populating in and leaderboards showing up. And so if when you started collecting reads, it all looked good like this, you are pretty much all set. So what we want to make sure we get everyone to the point of is seeing the names show up in the leaderboards on the left here. You've got reads in the raw reads area. You've got reads in the scored reads by location area. You're seeing recent reads showing up and so on. So yeah, again, you should be able to see all that data on the dashboard, and that's where you would be spending most of your time. As the race is progressing, it'll show you how many people are in progress. If you were collecting start reads, it'll say like, oh, you've got so many people out on course who we expect to get a finish for, and it'll give you a nice little progress bar here to say like, okay, you still got like 5 out on course or something to let your race director know that you can't tear down the course yet. You can get a quick glance at your top 5 by gender over here, just changing out this little filter at the top. If you had multiple events, you could switch it out here. And you can view all sorts of stuff on the dashboard. So let's see if everybody was able to get the reads pulled in from the file. Were you able to collect those times? So yeah, the reads will come in real time. If I were to like add a new read to the file right now, it would pop up. It's just a little bit hard to demonstrate that without like actually having data from a reader, which I can't replicate to everybody at once. So yes, as soon as a new read is added to the file or a new file shows up in a folder that's pointed to, those reads will get processed immediately. So as long as the looks like everybody's on the same page, by the way, so we're good there. As long as this is green, this reads is green, it means that it's actively looking for new reads in the folder. So whether, again, it's a new line in an existing file or a new file in that folder structure, it's going to add it to the list of all the reads in the stream and pull it all in. All right, so we've gotten through the incoming reads. The next thing we're going to do is take a look at reports. So if you have all the read data in here, you can go down to the little papers stack to view the default reports that were created for you. So we didn't talk at all about building reports because we build a few for you by default. And if you go to this reports area, you'll see I've got an age group report and I've got an overall report. Now, we just decide that there's some number of fields that most people want to see, and this is just what we have decided on. You can always come in and change this out, but to use the defaults works for the most part for most people. So you can come in and view a report just by clicking it here, and it'll take a sec, and then you'll see all these names, their gender place, and their age place with their top finisher category or their age group. It'll show the clock time, it'll show their state and their pace. So again, this is just like defaults. I can come in and change this if I wanted to. We're not going to go into super big detail on how to adjust reports, but just know if you wanted to play around with it, you can go into this edit area, and I'll see I have a single section in this report called 5K overall. I could have like a bunch of different sections in this if I wanted to do that. I can edit the columns. I can move things around. If I wanted to say pace should be before clock time, I can move it like that. I could add columns. RaceDay scoring has like 1,000 different columns. If you wanted to add some other data into this report, you could do so. And then you can move it around. There's a whole bunch of different stuff that you can do. If I wanted to filter things, if I wanted to change the sort, if I wanted to say instead of sorting by clock time, I wanted to actually sort this one by their time of day at the midpoint segment finish, you could do that. You could do all sorts of fun stuff with this. If I wanted to make a custom report where I wanted to show like just the first 10 finishers for the 5K, I could do that here. These are really handy if I want to build a custom report before the race has gone off, the week prior to the race, and I wanted to preview who is in that report. You could show non-starters, non-finishers, and so on. You can do custom scoring filters to say I want to only show people in this report who are from a certain town or have, I don't know, a 5K time less than 13 minutes to give me a cheaters report or something like that. There's all sorts of things that you could potentially do with a report builder. You can get as creative as you like, but these default ones should get you started pretty well. The age group report will break it out by band with little shortcuts to get to each area if you need to. It'll show all of the award or all of the age group participants in each section. If you wanted to, you could edit your age group report and do all the similar kind of things that you do in overall reports, but you have other options. Like for age groups, you could say, I only want to show the award winners. So I wanted to say, only show me the first 3 per age group, for instance. You could check that box, save the report, come back in, and now I only see 3 per age group, which looks good. So there's all sorts of things that you can do with reporting and race day scoring. And it's pretty much limitless with the amount of customization available to you. So that's the basics of reporting. Again, if you wanted to explore it, I recommend just playing around, adding some new columns, moving around, seeing how that works, changing the sort if you want to, see what's available there. You don't have to do any of this stuff for certification. The certification portion is pretty much over. You will be basically just at the end of today's class, you can take the quiz now or take it later whenever you want. Any of this stuff that we're talking about here is really just if you wanted to take a look and dig a little bit further into it, you're able to. You can learn how to do all these different things by clicking these links. For the certification portion, you do have to find results for certain people. So if you need to find someone, you can do that in a number of ways. You can open a report and type in their name in this little search bar here. Another option you have is to go into the participants area and search for them and then click their name here, and you'll see a little results section pop up in their participant profile. Additionally, if you see someone's name on the dashboard, you can always click their name and it'll bring you right to this screen, the participant view. So it's an easy way to double check on someone or adjust something in real time. If you know there's a problem, like you got a recent read, like let's say it's a 5K, 10K, and you saw a 10K show up really early, you could click them, change their event on the fly really easily in that way. So last thing that we can do today is I'll give you a quick overview on how to publish results to RunSignup. So in the reports, you'll see these little buttons for autosave settings. So autosaves are a way that race day scoring can periodically automatically export data. You can do that to a number of different sources. The most popular one is RunSignup results. So you can push results to RunSignup by setting up a RunSignup results autosave. Just a note, you don't ever automatically publish results to RunSignup. So if you're thinking about trying race day scoring out on an old race, if you don't set up an autosave to RunSignup, you're not going to overwrite results or anything like that. It doesn't automatically go to RunSignup. You do have to do this in order for the results to go up there. So don't be concerned if you take an old race and try and rescore it in race day scoring. We're not going to automatically overwrite data ever. Unless you tell it, I'm, yes, going to overwrite the data that's out there, we will never do that. So you have to come in and click autosave settings to get started with this. On the left, you'll see a run signup results panel, and just click the little plus icon there, and it'll get you started. There are other options for autosaves. You can use our kiosk system, which is like you can set up multiple computers connected on site through a network to display results on another computer. You can autosave to a file if you wanted to automatically export to, let's say, a CSV file on your Dropbox account. You could do that using the autosave to file option, and it'll say every 30 seconds update a specified file. If you're doing run signup results, it's every 30 seconds. It'll push results to run signup. So when you click that button, it'll drop in a bunch of default information. If there is an existing result set out there, it will ask you like, hey, do you want to reuse this existing result set, or do you want to create a new one? So this will only come up really for real races where you may have already created results from a different computer, and you may want to or may not want to overwrite those results. The run signup results set ID is how you decide whether or not you want to overwrite existing results. By default, we select new result set. The next thing is the result set title. We call the result set title, we default in whatever you have the report section name. So 5K overall results is going to go in there. I have 5K selected by default. Pace type is selected time per mile. And there's some additional info that RunSignup allows you to put into result sets. Things like the custom or the questions contact email, the result timer name, the results timer URL, and the questions contact URL. All of this information is set up on your timer dashboard. So if you have filled out this information, we'll pre-fill all of that information. So what I recommend is in the future, going into that timer dashboard, getting all this set up so that by default, we will pre-fill with relevant information. So that makes things really easy if you have your timer account set up properly, and you can always change it on the fly. If for this race, you need to go to a different contact URL or you use a different name for this particular race, whatever, you can do that here. So to finish off, you have to click Add Stream and then click Save Settings at the bottom. It'll yell at you if you try to save settings before you add the stream. So make sure you just add the stream first and then click Save Settings. So let's just show you that here. So I'm going to come in, I see my overall report. So you'll notice that if you were to try and autosave the age group report, it's not going to let you. It's going to say multi-section reports are not supported at RunSignup. And that's because it's not necessary to publish an age group report. When you publish an overall report and it has an age place column in it, which our default does, it automatically creates all of these age groups at RunSignup for you. So it's just going to build these on the fly whenever you publish or autosave a report that has the age place column. So as long as you left this age place column in the report that you're publishing, all of the age groups will show in the dropdowns at RunSignup properly, and you don't have to autosave anything else. So just a single autosave per event is sufficient, unless you had some special other report that you wanted to publish. If you had like a bike race with a hill climb in the middle and you wanted 2 different result sets, you could do that. But for today, we're just going to do a single autosave. So we're going to come in, click autosave settings, click plus. It's going to pre-fill with my data, which is totally real data. And I'm going to go ahead and click add stream. And then I'm going to click save settings. And now what will happen is I'll see up here, my auto saves are green. That means that it's currently publishing to RunSignup. And I now see a drop down here that says live result links. I can use this to view my results at RunSignup really easily. So I should be able to see all my result data at RunSignup just by clicking that link. Additionally, if you're not on the reports page, you can use this RunSignup links drop down right here on the race name and just really quickly get to my results. So I can get to my results from here, same page. I can get to my dashboard if I needed to do something. I can get to all sorts of stuff here. But that's all that is needed for publishing results to RunSignup. And now it's going to be pushing results throughout the day as reads are coming in. new people are finishing, they're automatically getting pushed to RunSignup every 30 seconds. So on the dashboard, I'll see down here that I have this little section called Report Autosaves. And if I scroll a little bit further down and open up this panel, it'll tell me the last time this one ran and published. It last ran at 3:03:49, and in another 30 seconds, it will update to the last time. So it runs every 30 seconds, so you know that things are going to be up to date every 30 seconds. You can pause all or resume all right from here. You can also pause all and resume all right from here. So if something went wrong and you wanted to pause everything just to get your results corrected, you can go ahead and just pause it, and you'll see it pauses everything. Then once you're ready, you got your corrections done, you can just go ahead and resume, and it does it right away. So similarly, if you want to stop collecting reads, you can just stop collecting reads right here, and that'll turn off the collector. It'll stop trying to look for new reads in that folder. You can continue to publish results as needed. All right, so let's see. Yep, you can pause, resume, autosaves if needed, as I said. And we are all pretty much wrapped up. So that's all we needed for today. You can go ahead and click here to submit the quiz. There's also a link in the file that you can follow along that we provided earlier. You can get to the quiz from. We've had people try to download this file and open it on their computer. Just continue, just click the link and follow the instructions in the browser. Do not download this. Some people have managed to get the drive file and downloaded it. So you just want to open it in your browser and submit the quiz here. Should be pretty straightforward. The only thing that people sometimes get tripped up on in the quiz is it'll ask you what place someone was, and they'll put in their time, their finish time, or vice versa. So I review these manually. Usually the only trouble people have is they mix up what they're adding. They put the time instead of the place or something like that. So it's a very easy quiz. Don't be concerned about it. So go ahead and complete that and submit it whenever you're able to. And the last thing that we'll ask is for you to just submit your race file for review in case you had any issues. So you don't have to do this. If you did have any problems or you're concerned about something you did or you're not sure about something, use that Get Help icon and submit that race backup. That will get a note into our support team, and they'll be able to help you out. So put your address here, say I can't get reads to come in, and we will see your race file as it was when you clicked send here, and it will automatically zip that up and send it over to us so we can help you troubleshoot what the problem is. And so that's the basics here. Let me see what else we need to talk about. That's pretty much it.
Can you go through really quickly adding a mystery? We've had a couple people ask.
Yeah. So if you did have a missed read, what you would do is come into this raw reads area. In this panel, this is basically showing you all the different reads that were collected by your streams, why they may have been used or not used. If you had an unknown, you can resolve it by clicking this and typing in a new entry or associating it with an existing participant, or you can add raw reads. So let's say I had a backup timer and I was able to get a list of the data from the backup timer, and I knew that, someone said they're not showing up in results, they finished around this time. So I could put in a read for 99999, let's say, and they said that they finished around 8:30 p.m. That's how I would add a raw read for someone who I missed. And it'll take just a second and we'll populate in. I don't know if deb999 was in use. I don't think it was, but it will show up eventually here. And this is a really good way to look into issues as well. This raw reads area is really nice. It allows you to filter things for a number of different reasons. if I saw on my dashboard that I had a bunch of ignored reads and I was concerned about them, I could see like, oh, there's 411 occurrence not defined reads. What does that mean? Well, all of these reads got marked as occurrence not defined. So I could come in and say, well, let's look at just this person's stuff. What's going on with 3093? I could click that link and it will add to the filter 3093. And it'll say, oh, he's got 3 different reads that were not defined. Oh, but I'm filtered to just show those that are not defined. So let's see everything for this person. Oh, I see. So I got a read for Lawson at 8:08:12, and then I got some additional reads. So he was walking around the finish line and he got these different reads, and the system said, no, I only want the first one because this was used at my finish, and I know that it was after 8:01, and I only want to use that first one. So this is a nice way to like investigate stuff. So if you see problems, again, you can click these links. So I got a problem with Ashley, I can click right here and get a heads up view of what's going on with her reads or their reads. And yeah, this is how you can do your troubleshooting on the fly. Were there any other questions that came up, guys in the back end?
Yeah, Matt, there's a question about entering or times in 24-hour format. I can't remember all of the options there.
Oh, if you're entering times in 24-hour format, it's dependent on your Windows settings, I believe, but you should be able to just say, to type them in. So if I have bib22222 and I want to put in 19, it just, you can't see it because I'm typing in 19 and it flips to 7 right away. But the way that I have my computer configured is that it's in 24-hour or 12-hour AM PM. If I had my computer configured at 24-hour time, it would accept 19 here. But as I do this, if I were to put in, let's say I were to say 3897, because I know that's the first person here, and I put in 7 PM for them. Take a minute. So it'll say, you know, that 7 PM time is also 19 hours, 1900 hours. So it will accept it either way you enter it in. It depends on your Windows setup as to how these fields look. Most of the time it's 12-hour AM PM though. Anything else from anyone? Cool. So again, if you want to learn more about RaceDay scoring, we have a ton of guides if you like to read. Honestly, though, I think the best place to get support is in the app. So what I suggest is to try to import or RunSignup race that you had scored in the past on some other software and rescore it using RaceDay scoring. And if you get stuck, submit a help ticket, tell us where you got stuck, and we'll help you out. It's the best way for us to assist you, and the best way I think for you to learn is to just try it and play around and see where you get stuck. We have a lot of guides, like I said, a lot of videos on our YouTube, which you can watch if you like visual learning more. Additionally, Chris, who's on the line with us, does one-on-one demos, and he does this every day, all the time. So he has this link here, calendly.com/RSC RaceDay tools, and you can schedule a demo with him. Typically, what I suggest is to come prepared with an example race that you have scored in the past that you would like to try to rescore, and he'll walk you through best practices for that type of event. Or if you have some specific type of scenario that you're unsure about, you can schedule a time with him, or just send us an email, raceday@runsignup.com, or submit it in the app, and we'll help you out, get started. But yeah, if you really, really want to do like 45 minutes with Chris just to sit down and work through some multiple questions you have, feel free to do so. I always suggest having either an example ready to go or an old race that you're trying to rescore so that you can have actionable items to work through.
Or feel free to build out your current race that you're trying to score and go through it. And I'll be more than happy to review and answer any questions you have on that.
Yep. All right, so I think that's everything for today. Again, if there's anything else that you have for us, feel free to reach out. RaceDay at RunSignup is our support inbox. I'm on there most of the time during the week, and then on the weekends, we have a couple of people working on support, and we have phone support on the weekends. So if you have an issue during a race, do not hesitate to give us a call, and the number is right here. This is really like if you're in a crunch, we know what it's like. We're timers. So if you're really stuck and need to produce results, chances are it's a really simple fix that we'll know how to help you out with. Don't hesitate to give us a call on the weekends. Support's not busy on the weekends. So reach out if you're having a real problem. We'll fix it for you. We don't want you to have to wait until Monday to get your results fixed up. So I think that is everything for today. Thanks everyone for coming. And so next week we do have the check-in, excuse me, certification, if you're interested in that as well, and photos. So that'll be check-in and photos. Crisp and I will be going through that. If you're attending, we'll see you there. If not, I'll talk to you soon in support. Thanks again for coming. Bye.
All right, I do see that. I think it's a blue jay. Hey, you just finished watching one of our videos. Thank you for checking it out. If you want to see more, especially the new ones, click the subscribe button, then the bell, and then all. If you enjoy this type of content, please click the thumbs up button. That really helps us out. And we'll see you next time.